No, I don't think I will kiss you. Although you need kissing badly. That's what's wrong with you.
You go. Where shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Well, the first time I knew who my father was, I was 23, and I was 2 weeks away from being married. And I said to my fiancé, I said, I can't marry you.
At 23, just as she was planning her wedding, a young woman's world was turned upside down by a shocking discovery. She was the daughter of Clark Gable, the famous Hollywood star. Gable wasn't just known for acting in over 60 movies. He was a symbol of Hollywood's golden age. But behind all the glamour, there was a tragic secret about his family. Rumors suggested that Gable had African-American roots, linking him to the legendary actress Hattie McDaniel. What if this hidden truth changes everything we know about one of Hollywood's biggest stars? Let's reveal this explosive story that nobody in Hollywood will believe. The Forgotten Offspring. Recently, Gable's children have come forward to confirm these long-standing rumors and to reveal another shocking twist: the existence of a secret child. This revelation has prompted a renewed interest in Gable's life, unraveling a complex story that had been shrouded in mystery for decades. Clark Gable was born in 1901 in the small town of Cadiz, Ohio, but his arrival was anything but ordinary. His birth record was a muddled mess, mistakenly identifying him as both male and female due to the doctor's careless handwriting. Tragedy struck early in his life when his mother passed away just 10 months after he was born, leaving a void that would affect his formative years. 2 years later, Gable's father remarried, bringing Jenny Dunlap into the family as his stepmother. Contrary to many stepmother stereotypes, Jenny became a loving and influential figure in Gable's life. She took on the role of mentor, nurturing his mind and exposing him to Shakespeare, classical music, and the arts. Jenny's influence provided a sharp contrast to Gable's father, who taught him the rougher skills of hunting and manual labor, meant to toughen him up. But this wasn't the hardest part. Gable's heart, however, was not in the rugged life his father envisioned for him. At 17, he found his true passion on the stage, captivated by the world of acting. But his path was riddled with obstacles. Financial difficulties were a constant challenge, and when Jenny died suddenly when Gable was 19, he was thrust into adult responsibilities sooner than expected. With his dreams on hold, Gable worked tirelessly in the oil fields to support his father, a job that seemed worlds away from the Hollywood spotlight he longed for. But his ambition remained undeterred. It was a conversation with a fellow worker that reignited his desire to act, encouraging Gable to pursue his theatrical dreams. This encouragement led him to meet France Dorff, a striking actress, with whom he quickly formed a close bond. Together, they began performing with traveling stage companies, slowly inching closer to the life Gable had always wanted. While briefly settled in Portland, Oregon, Dorff introduced Gable to Josephine, an experienced acting coach who would play a pivotal role in his rise to stardom. Dillon, 17 years his senior, recognized Gable's potential and took him under her wing, teaching him to refine his vocal skills and stage presence. Under her guidance, Gable's raw talent evolved into the polished, charismatic persona that would one day captivate audiences worldwide. Their relationship, however, grew more complicated as Dillon became both his mentor and romantic partner. But this wasn't the end of Gable's challenges. As his fame grew, so did the scrutiny of his personal life. His heritage, once the subject of hushed conversations, became a topic of public fascination. The recent revelations from his children about his African-American roots and secret offspring have added new dimensions to the story of a man whose life was far more complex than his on-screen persona suggested. Josephine Dillon wasn't just helping Clark Gable with his acting career. She was also paying his living expenses. As their professional relationship grew closer, Gable's personal life took a big turn. He broke off his engagement to be with his much older mentor. Their relationship didn't follow the usual path and was filled with ups and downs from the start. Josephine believed in Gable's potential so strongly that she decided to take bold steps to boost his career. They moved to Los Angeles, hoping it would be the launchpad for Gable's future in Hollywood. Josephine even set up a theater company there to help Gable get more exposure. 5 months later, Gable joined her, and soon after they got married. To avoid raising eyebrows about their age gap, they lied on the marriage license, reducing the difference from 17 years to 10. But this was only the beginning of Gable's complex journey, filled with ambition and controversial decisions. He often used his relationships with influential people to advance his career, which didn't go unnoticed. There were whispers that Gable had affairs with both men and women who could help him climb the ladder in Hollywood. Notable among them was a rumored relationship with the actor William Haynes and a wealthy actress named Pauline Frederick. Frederick was a key supporter of Gable's early-stage career and even bought him a car while he was still married to Josephine. Gable's relentless pursuit of fame and his willingness to use personal connections began to take a toll on his marriage. By 1929, after several affairs, his relationship with Josephine had fallen apart and they divorced. Gable didn't slow down. His ambition only grew. Shortly after, he landed his first movie contract with Path Pictures. Not long after his divorce, Gable married Maria Langham, another wealthy woman who was also 17 years older than him, showing a clear pattern in his choice of partners. However, this marriage was also troubled. Gable's drive to succeed often led him into more affairs and new alliances that could help his career. His luck seemed to turn when he signed a contract with Warner Brothers, but even then, he faced criticism. Darryl F. Zanuck, a major executive at Warner Brothers, doubted Gable's talent and even criticized his appearance, questioning if he had what it took to make it in Hollywood. But this wasn't the worst part. Gable's big break finally came when he was cast in Dance Fool's Dance alongside Joan Crawford, one of the biggest stars of the time. This wasn't just luck. Crawford herself had insisted that Gable be her co-star. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on and off the screen, and soon the two were embroiled in an affair despite both being married. Their connection was so strong that they would go on to make 8 films together, each time capturing the audience's attention with their dynamic presence. Gable's relationships often played a significant role in his career trajectory. His willingness to forge personal connections, sometimes at the cost of his marriages, showed just how determined he was to succeed. He wasn't just climbing the Hollywood ladder with his talent. He was carefully navigating his way through the complex social web of the film industry. As Gable's fame grew, his personal life got more complicated, leading to new troubles and romances. Mayer versus Gable. Despite MGM studio head Louis B. Mayer's best efforts, he couldn't stop Clark Gable's affair with Joan Crawford. Gable's flirtatious nature only intensified, and he continued to enjoy a life filled with romantic adventures. Mayer found himself in a tricky spot as Gable and Crawford refused to end their relationship, forcing him to threaten their careers. But Gable, always a smooth operator, had his own ways of dealing with the situation and managed to navigate his way out of trouble. After parting ways with Crawford, Gable's attention quickly turned to Marion Davies, another popular actress of the time. Their fling was brief, and soon Gable was moving on, romancing other women. But things took a surprising turn when he starred with Carole Lombard in the movie No Man of Her Own. Known for his reputation, Gable unexpectedly didn't pursue Lombard right away, which caught her off guard. At first, their relationship was strictly professional, but fate had other plans. But this wasn't the turning point just yet. Years later, they met again at a lavish ball, and this time, Gable didn't hold back. He boldly invited Lombard to his hotel room, signaling his serious interest in her. Lombard's cheeky response, asking if he thought he was Clark Gable, sparked the beginning of a legendary romance that would define both their lives. Gable's first 2 marriages were mostly practical, driven by financial reasons with wealthy women. But everything changed when he met Lombard. After winning an Oscar, Gable no longer needed to rely on financial security from a partner, and his bond with Lombard grew stronger. Even though Gable was still technically married, he and Lombard couldn't hide their affection for each other. Following a long and expensive divorce from his second wife, Gable finally married Lombard in 1939 during a filming break from Gone with the Wind. The couple found happiness together on a ranch in California, where they raised chickens and horses, enjoying a simple yet fulfilling life. They lovingly called each other Ma and Pa, and Gable found true joy in their relationship, embracing a level of comfort and authenticity he hadn't experienced before. Meanwhile, his acting career continued to flourish, boosted by the stability and love he found at home. But this wasn't the biggest hurdle he faced. Gable's journey to fame was marked by significant challenges. He had to fight hard to earn his place in Hollywood, and his career hit a major bump in 1933 during the filming of Dancing Lady. A severe dental infection forced Gable to have most of his teeth removed, causing him immense pain and delaying the production, which added hefty costs to the movie. Despite these setbacks, MGM loaned him to Columbia Pictures for a small film called It Happened One Night, directed by Frank Capra. Expectations were low, but this movie turned out to be a game changer. Gable's performance was so impressive that it earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor in 1934, solidifying his place as a Hollywood star. But that wasn't the best part. On the night he received his Oscar, Gable's down-to-earth nature shone through. When a young fan approached him admiring the award, Gable handed it to the child, saying that the honor meant more than the statue itself. This act of humility won over the public even more, showing Gable not just as a movie star, but as a man who valued genuine success over mere trophies. Gable's life wasn't just about love. His career also hit tough times, showing the hard side of fame. Gable's MGM comeback. When Clark Gable returned to MGM after his earlier successes, he was an even bigger star. Among all his achievements, Gone with the Wind stood out, becoming one of the most successful films ever. From the moment he arrived on set, Gable felt like he belonged, partly because of his strong friendship with his co-star Hattie McDaniel. Their connection was built on mutual respect and support, not romance. McDaniel, an African-American actress, faced a lot of discrimination during that time, but Gable stood by her, often challenging the racial prejudices of the day. Some people believe Gable's support for McDaniel was influenced by his own mixed heritage. Gable was said to be part African-American and Native American, though the studios tried to keep this quiet. Proud of his diverse roots, which also included Pennsylvania Dutch, Belgian, and German backgrounds, Gable didn't just sit back when it came to fighting inequality. He took action, especially when McDaniel wasn't allowed to attend the premiere of Gone with the Wind in Atlanta because of her race. Gable threatened to skip the event himself in protest. But this wasn't the only time Gable took a stand. He also fought against segregation on set, protesting when he discovered separate bathrooms for black and white cast members. He refused to work until everyone was treated equally. While some say Gable was ahead of his time, others think his mixed background influenced his values. Whatever the reason, his friendship with McDaniel went beyond race. It was based on genuine loyalty and care. They often shared fun moments on set, like when Gable swapped her tea with a stronger drink as a prank during filming. Despite their close bond, McDaniel didn't always receive the same respect from others. Still, Gable remained her steadfast friend throughout their lives, a testament to his character and his willingness to go against the norms of the era. But this wasn't the hardest thing Gable faced. Tragedy struck when his great love, Carole Lombard, died in a plane crash in 1942 while returning from a war bond rally. Devastated, Gable rushed to the crash site in Nevada, desperate to find her. Friends had to physically hold him back from climbing the mountain to the wreckage himself. When Lombard's body was found, Gable was heartbroken. He cried out in anguish, knowing he would return to an empty home. He continued to live in their house in Encino, constantly reminded of her absence and never fully moving on from his loss. Trying to cope with his grief, Gable found himself drawn to actress Virginia Gray. Their close relationship sparked rumors that she might be the next Mrs. Gable. They spent a lot of time together, and many thought he would propose. But Gable's struggle to commit and his ongoing flirtations with other women left Gray waiting for something that never happened. In the end, Gable couldn't move past his heartbreak and remained unwilling to settle down again. In 1949, Clark Gable surprised everyone by marrying Lady Sylvia Ashley while still involved with Virginia Gray. This sudden marriage shocked Hollywood and left Gray heartbroken. The union, surrounded by public curiosity, quickly fell apart as it became clear that Gable and Lady Sylvia were not well suited for each other. Lady Sylvia loved lavish spending and throwing big Hollywood parties, which was not Gable's style at all. He preferred a quieter life, and their different interests quickly caused problems. Not even a year into their marriage, Gable was ready to call it quits. He often joked with friends that he must have been out of his mind when he proposed. Their divorce became a public drama, and Gable's relief when it was finalized was obvious. It was clear to everyone that their marriage had been a mistake from the start. Even though he was single again, Gable's love life continued to make headlines. The media eagerly followed his every move, guessing who might be the next woman in his life. But Gable wasn't focused on romance at that point. Instead, he was dealing with some major challenges in his career. After his success in Gone with the Wind, many assumed Gable's career would stay on top, but that wasn't the case. MGM struggled to find good roles for him, leaving Gable feeling overlooked and unhappy with the studio. In 1954, after 23 years with MGM, he made the big decision to leave, marking a major change in his career. Unfortunately, his new roles didn't quite match the success of his earlier days, showing that the Hollywood landscape was shifting and Gable was finding it harder to keep up. But this wasn't the only thing going wrong for him. Around this time, Gable started a new relationship with Kay Williams, who had recently divorced. They eloped in Nevada, surrounded by a few close friends and family. This marriage felt different. Gable seemed genuinely happy for the first time in years. However, their joy was short-lived. At a movie premiere in 1955, Williams, who was pregnant, suffered a miscarriage shortly afterward. It was a devastating loss for the couple. Despite this, Gable remained a loving stepfather to Williams's children and continued to support her through their tough times. In 1960, Williams became pregnant again, but their hopes were dashed once more by another tragic miscarriage. Gable's professional life wasn't going smoothly either. The movies he made during this time didn't stand out, and none brought him the acclaim he had once enjoyed. But in 1960, he was cast in The Misfits, alongside Marilyn Monroe and Montgomery Clift. Filming was tough, with the harsh desert heat and intense conditions making it a real challenge. Gable, despite his age and health concerns, insisted on doing his own stunts, pushing himself to the limit. But this wasn't the worst part. Just 2 days after finishing The Misfits, Gable suffered a heart attack. Rumors about his declining health had been swirling during filming, and his insurance company had even pressured him to take better care of himself. Still, his sudden death came as a shock to everyone. Gable passed away with his wife Kay by his side, though he died while she was taking a brief rest. The sadness of Gable's passing was made even deeper by the fact that Kay was 4 months pregnant at the time. In March 1961, she gave birth to a son, John Clark Gable. However, the question of whether John was Gable's only child soon resurfaced because of the story of Loretta Young's daughter, Judy Lewis. Back in 1935, while filming The Call of the Wild, Gable had a brief affair with Loretta Young, which led to her becoming pregnant. Fearing for their careers, Young hid the pregnancy, pretending she was recovering from an extended trip to Europe. She gave birth in secret and placed Judy in a Catholic orphanage, later adopting her as her own to avoid scandal. Judy grew up not knowing who her real parents were, and it wasn't until 5 years after Gable's death that Loretta Young finally told her the truth. This revelation explained Judy's lifelong sense of confusion and isolation, highlighting the hidden struggles of Hollywood's biggest stars. Clark Gable's life was filled with dramatic twists, deep loves, heartbreaking losses, and the kind of secrets that only old Hollywood could hold. His story shows that behind the fame was a man facing real, complex challenges that shaped his legacy in ways few truly understood. What do you think was the real impact of Hollywood's secrecy on stars like Clark Gable and Loretta Young? Like, comment, and subscribe for more intriguing stories from the golden age of cinema.